The FujiCast is an independent Loading Zone production.
As we head into winter, we're both on new fitness drives so that we may continue to photograph our mammoth weddings, Kev, and keep up with the young ones. But Kev, you're finding it difficult to find the perfect cardio machine, and lifting the coffee cup in the gym cafe doesn't count, no matter how many times you do it. You've tried everything in the gym. You've tried the running machine, but that's not good for your knees.
No.
You've tried the elliptical. It's called the elliptical workout, isn't it? The what do they call it? With the arms, not stepper, no, elliptical.
No, like there's cross
trainer. Yeah. That you don't like that?
No.
Good for your joints, though, Kev. That one.
I know. Anything where I dictate the pace doesn't work.
Right.
Has to be something that's.
Well, in that case,
if I stop doing something, I'll get flung off.
Right. So you don't want to dictate the pace of your exercise?
No.
Easy. I'm going to put you on child reins, attach you to the back of the Kia, and I'm going to drive off. Yeah. Kev's little feet running after me. Stop, Neil, stop. Well, you don't want to dictate it, Kev. We're going 20 miles an hour. So you don't like those, and you're not very keen on using, and this is really good. In our gym, it's the, you can tell I've not been on it for months, but I don't mean the stepper where you step up and down.
No.
I mean the stair mill, where the stairs...
The moving stairs, yeah.
Now, it's not like walking upstairs entirely, because a little bit of the work is being done for you, in that they're moving down while you move up. So I think there's something like 25% less stairage about it, or some sort of figure.
I actually like that machine, but it's in the room with all the gorillas, and I don't like going in the gorilla room. With all the grunting and moaning and preening.
Is that why they call the big macho room in your place, the gorilla room?
They grunt and they preen, and then they stop and they look at themselves in the mirror, and they pull some fleas out of their hair, and they eat a little bit of earwax, and then they get back onto their grunting and groaning.
Are we back at the photography show now? So you won't go in that. And in the gym just up the road, which now is closed, and I'm not surprised with this policy that it has, they used to have a sign above the door that machine was in with, you're quite right, it was with all the grunting and groaning machines as well. It just said, no girls allowed.
Oh my God,
I know.
Really?
Can you believe that? And we are only going back about 10 or 15 years.
Good job they're closed.
I know. Just one of the reasons I moved to the family gym. Double the price, half the grunting. And I do remember, actually, Muscles would give people disapproving looks if you didn't look like you should be in that room. One of them sort of suggested my name should be on a sign too. I tell you what, Kev, we'd no doubt have had our names added.
Terrible.
But really, behind the scenes, we used to mock that sign. Male and female members, we'd give it the look it deserved, Kev.
That's terrible, Muriel.
Well, no murals allowed.
The FujiCast.
That would be a rule. But yes, it closed down. I did always think, because it had plenty of female members, that...
it was a misplaced joke. Very misplaced joke. It
was exceptionally misplaced. Anyway, the building's misplaced now. It was taken over by another company. So, in fact, no, I think that one was knocked down. No, that one was knocked down. There we go. That's how misplaced it was, Kev.
Good.
Anyway, welcome to the FujiCast. Another week, another dollar, another cent, another pound, another euro. Here we are again, taking your questions that you can send in to click@fujicast.co.uk, or you can, of course, send them via the Facebook group. Kev does those ones, or indeed you can send them via the Patreon link if you are one of our patrons. Second week, second part, concluding part of the Peter Dench interview, which is really good, Kev. I really enjoyed your chat with Peter.
Not as much as I did.
No,
great fun.
I would imagine. And we have a book of the week as well, of course, as always. What is your? It's normally a tome of the week, isn't it?
Well, actually, this week it's not. It's more of a. It's more of a novel come photo book. It's Hold Still by Sally Mann.
Hold Still?
A memoir.
Wow. So
Sally Mann's memoir.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Have you been reading it? Well, obviously you have. You've been reading it.
I've read it a little bit of it.
Oh, God, we're on for a long one today. Kev's a bit tired, by the way, as well.
Yeah, I've read a little bit. But yes, so Anna McCarthy was showing me this over Zoom, and her version of it is all dog-eared with notes and like post-it notes and all that kind of stuff, which is how a book should be. I
like books like that. Yeah. My Henri Cartier-Bresson book is full of notes at the side from the photographer that had it before. And it reminds me of, do you remember the school books Shakespeare books that have stuff written down the side? Although we often used to have stuff written down the side for Mr. Norris that would say off or stuff like that.
Well, that's really funny because today on the way to school, I was taking Albert to school and he was asking me what I used to like in school, what I did for GCSEs in school or A-levels, or I can't remember. Anyway, we got talking about, I did English language and English literature.
Yeah.
And he couldn't quite understand. He was like, what? There's two different Englishes. And I was like, yeah, one's kind of the study of novels and stuff, and one's the study of the language.
Yeah.
And that reminded me, we did Divine Comedy. We did all kinds of stuff. He was like, well, I want to do computers. And I was like, yeah, so that's what I did as well. But then we also did these things. But anyway, the reason why I was remembering that is because I still got my copy of Divine Comedy somewhere. It's a Dante. It's like a big poem by Dante.
Yeah.
And it is all dog-eared and noted and written on and everything. Very, very complicated thing that was. But yeah, and that's what I want. My Hold Still by Sally Mann, I want to be like that by the time I finish it.
Are you writing in it as well?
I will be, yeah. This isn't a book for sticking on a bookshelf and pulling out every now and again. This is something to take to bed with you and jot down on.
I like that idea. Makes it more personal to you as well. Right. Questions. Let's start. Who's going to go first?
I'll go first.
Go on then.
Peter, so this is from the Facebook group, questions for the show thread, and the latest one came in 17 hours ago, and this is from Peter Kasbergen.
Right.
He says, hi gents, congrats again on 200 great episodes. Here's a question from your long-time listener and moderator from the Netherlands. As a wedding photographer, I know we are there to capture moments, especially those moments that are particularly emotional for the couple or their guests. However, being only human, I have found myself missing shots every now and then because I got caught up in the emotion of the moment myself. Yeah. Have you ever experienced any moments where you have had to dry your own eyes and know you had missed great shots because of it?
Absolutely yes is my answer to that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the simple answer, I think, is that Peter's switched to Sony, hasn't he? So he's probably missing quite a lot of shots.
Kev!
You want to get the Fuji emotional filter on. That's what you want.
Yeah. Isn't there a switch now? You've got a function button on the top. Function button. Press that one. Emotion.
It's a special one that us ambassadors get. Nobody else gets. It's just under Across R. It's called emotion filter.
But he's right though. You do sometimes. I think as an observer, you occasionally think, oh, I'm supposed to be taking pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it does happen. I can't say that I've kind of missed. I mean, obviously, I've missed shots, plenty of shots for various reasons, but I can't say I've missed them specifically because I've been too tied up in the moment. I have, kind of shed a tear behind the camera and all that kind of stuff, but I do generally keep going, keep shooting. One thing though, I don't. If it's if they're talking about, the death of the father or whatever, something really, really, very privately emotional.
Stuff
I don't
floors.
take pictures of that.
Do you not? Okay. Well, I do actually. Yeah, that's. I would carry on at that moment, although I'd be subtle with it. But I do think they're an essential part of the day, aren't they?
Yes, but then I think those memories, those emotions are always with them, and I think my job is to give them a happy memory of the day. I don't really want them flicking through their wedding pictures and then suddenly being plunged into the depths of sadness.
Well, aren't you missing a bit of this? Memories. I mean, probably my most important signature image is of the mother with the daughter with her hand out to mum's cheek, comforting her because they're talking about their father who had passed away just a couple of months before the wedding. And to me, that's such an important image. But if I'd have been concerned about worrying them because it was a sad memory, I would never have taken that picture or made that picture.
But what do you think and it is a wonderful picture, but what do you think goes through their mind whenever they see that picture?
Well, without sounding like a contrarian, which I'm going to, it's one of the bride's favourite pictures from that wedding.
Fair enough.
But you are right. I suppose if you've got a lot of pictures of one particular moment, then that can be tricky. But often those speeches are, about people that are lost and aren't there. I mean, it's one of the key features often of the speeches, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. And they nearly always do a toast to absent friends and all that kind of stuff. And that's fine. It's just when it's like a very recent thing or very, very hugely emotional. Yeah. As it's based on sadness, then I typically don't do it.
Well, what are the other moments then, Kev, that sometimes have you by the Trossachs where you think, oh, I'm not quite sure if I can photograph that?
No, I don't think there's any that I don't really photograph. I mean, apart from those kind of things, I love it when you see dad and the daughter and all that kind of stuff in a proper, you've done well embrace, all that kind of stuff. I like, the dad speeches generally can be a bit teary. Old people are great, mostly because they don't move around a lot, so it's really easy to get pictures of them.
Don't you feel though when the bride comes in the morning, or rather the father comes in the morning, if it is a father-daughter moment, and he is completely still when it comes to any emotion. I always look at the bride and feel slightly sorry in some respects, because I'm thinking, just tell her she looks fantastic. I found myself doing that the other day. He came in and he was a lovely bloke, but he gave no emotion to her, and I looked at her. And I thought, you really want the emotion, don't you? And he's not providing it. So I felt, not duty-bound, because she did look fantastic, but I felt that I should say something before I left for the church. I said, you look absolutely amazing.
Do you ever wonder, I rarely do those things now because I'm usually gone. Right. Occasionally it happens if it's in the same location and everything.
Yeah.
And my pictures of those times are usually pretty poor because I hide. I'm behind a wardrobe or I'm something, because I've found over the years that, especially if it's a setup moment by the wedding planner or something, right? You stand there, dad's going to walk in, photographer, you go over the bride's shoulder.
Oh,
First thing dad sees is you with the camera pointed at him, or us, I should say. And that will kill all emotion dead. That's what I feel happens. So I typically, if I'm there, I'm usually somewhere where he's never going to see me when he first walks in.
Well, you are right, actually, Kev, that your presence, I don't mean you as in you, but our presence,
no, I mean,
our presence can affect that moment. You're absolutely right about that, because there are those moments where dad walks in and looks straight at you and thinks, oh, better go into pose mode. You are right. Yeah, I don't think that happens an awful lot. And I have had, if I get the opportunity, and it's rare that I do, but if I get the opportunity and I'm outside the room and I see dad, I say, for heaven's sake, dad, just look at her. Don't look at me when you come in the room. But it's rare that you get that opportunity, as you're right. I mean, often it's set up, isn't it? Somebody said, and those moments, it could be tricky.
Yeah, anyway, but yes, I mean, that some of those moments are amazing, and then some of them aren't. But I think generally, overall, emotion is an important part of the day, and we all photograph it in different ways. We all react to it in different ways. I put my little Fuji ambassador filter on for emotions, and Peter, Peter won't have that in his camera.
Do you have a divider for that? Surely you don't want to damage your filter.
I divide my emotions up easily. I'm very good at that. Yeah, Gemma tells me that all the time.
Right. Ted Strang. Hello, Kev. Hello, Neil. Sorry, this isn't a handwritten mail this time. Oh, did Ted send
Yes, Ted was the one who sent us a letter. Yeah.
Yes. I've sold all equipment. Oh, that's it. The end. Next question. No.
Bye-bye.
I'm pared down to a Fuji X-T2 with 35mm f2. And for backup or special occasions, locations that the bigger camera wouldn't be allowed, a Fuji X-F10. I've never thought of a Fuji X-T2 with a 35 as a big camera anyway, really. But what do you guys think about one camera, one lens type of fun and personal photography? I understand for paid work you need to have more, but I plan on just the X-T2 with a 35mm f2 for the next while, maybe next year. From Ted in Wisconsin. I think it's a great idea. I for my photo walks, I was just taking out the X100. I seem to have let into the bag now an X100, the X Pro 1, and a film camera.
You growing your beard?
My beard?
Yeah, you're going to get a big hairy beard.
Yeah. I bought some tweed. I tell you what, Kev, you can't buy tweed trousers for love nor money.
You have tried to buy some tweed.
I have no black tweed trousers. I just want woolly black trousers for the winter. That's all I want. I'm not asking for much. Black trousers. I went into the suits company in Newbury, and there's a guy that's been there years, and I said, have you got any black trousers that are wool? And he said, like I'd asked him if I could steal his family or something. Are they impossible to find? Does nobody make woolen black trousers anymore that might chafe a bit, but are very warm?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't wear woolen clothes. I don't
mean, tweedy kind of thing. I mean, you can buy green tweed, blue tweed, brown tweed, green tweed, but you can't buy black. Anyway, That wasn't what the question was about. One camera, one lens type of fun. What do you think, Kev?
Yeah, if it's for fun, do whatever you want. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. crack on. 35 f2 is a really nice small lens, good for portraits, good for stepping back, bit of context, no distortion. XT2, smallish camera, smaller. Well, it's a small camera, but not as small as the XF10. It's not going to slip into your pocket, but good. Enjoy.
One Fujifilm camera with one lens for you, though, what would it be? I mean, for me, it would be the X100 23mm. If we're talking about fun personal photography and getting out there, because 35 would equate to a 50mm nifty 50 and would be a tad too close, I think, for me.
Well, if I always think situations like this, what do I take if I'm going to the rugby with the boys or something like that? I normally take my X70. X70 would probably be the one I'd reach to for a purely, doesn't matter about the pictures, fun day out. Yeah. It would be that. But X100 as well. Yeah. I wouldn't be thinking about any of the interchangeable cameras.
No. Of course, with the X100V and F, but could you do this with a 4 with a digital zoom on it?
Mm-hmm.
Was it on the F?
Mm-hmm. That's when it first came out.
Oh. Do you know, I don't think I ever used it on the F.
Yeah.
Found it on the V and thought, this has changed my life.
Yeah, I'm sure it was on the F. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Facebook.
Yes. Luckily, Facebook is still working.
How did you deal with the fact it went down for 6 hours? Did you run around the room screaming?
Well, I was on my way to judo, funny enough, and normally there's a judo WhatsApp group, and normally the people who are going say they're going and they're not going and everything, and that was deadly silent. And I realised when I got there, I got to Cirencester, that I hadn't had any pings or pongs in my car, and nothing had been going beep 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 at me as I was driving along. No. And then I realised something was down. Looked on the BBC News because of initially I thought, my phone's knackered. It's the reception's gone or something. Yeah. And then I looked on the BBC News, and that was working. And then I saw the article. So it was funny, wasn't it?
10 million complaints, apparently, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's more serious that, there was a lot of people on Facebook going, oh, no, the teenagers are having to learn how to read a book, etc.
I'm afraid I was a bit like that.
Says the people writing on Facebook, about their teenagers. Yeah. And then there was a whole load of comments on social media about, what will the influencers do now? They've got no money coming in.
Kev, you just described exactly what I said.
Yeah. Well, no, I know, but it's like, you're the ones using it. If you've got a problem with it, don't use it. The serious part of it, though, is that there's a lot of other businesses that are that have their access tied to Facebook. A lot of applications. Like my to-do application and everything. My log-on is via Facebook. I log into it via Facebook. I can get into that.
Does to-do have to be Facebook logged in?
No. Right. You can choose. most places these days, most software services things will give you an option. You can register online, put your name and address and email password, all that kind of stuff. Or you can just log in using Facebook or your Microsoft account or Google account.
I'm kind of surprised how you place all that faith in Zuckerberg. I mean, appreciating your reticence with, about Apple, for example, having a kind of closed loop when it comes to IT infrastructure, and in that you don't like any tech hierarchy to wield such power over data that's yours. You seem happy for the Zook to be your gatekeeper, though.
No, I have no problems with that. And I don't always use the Facebook. Generally, I'll use the Google one if it's an option, but some of them are tied up to the Facebook one.
Right, okay.
Or, if less likely is the Microsoft account login.
Yeah.
If that's there, then I'll use that, then Google or Facebook. I don't have any, listen, it's not like it's not my bank details or anything like that. I have no problems with that whatsoever. I remember a long time ago when I was doing web development, this idea first came about. Facebook was kind of on the line, a few years old at this point.
Yeah.
And then this big movement came where they were using what they call handed over security, and the whole of the web development industry were like, what the you can't be handing security between websites like that. What a ridiculous thing. And then fast forward a few years, and that's basically everything is done that way,
Yeah.
And for a reason, because it makes things a lot quicker and a lot easier. If you had to register and use LastPass or FirstPass or MSecure in my case for password management all of the time, I tell you what, it is better to have something like Facebook or Google credentials, as long as your credentials are secure, than just thinking, oh, can't be bothered to register a new one and then using the same password for loads of different websites.
Isn't that the point of LastPass, though, that and other services like that, where you don't,
they're great.
Where you can have a real sort of mixture of letters and numbers and characters and
but
stuff.
They still reckon over 90% of people use the same password when they're registering for things, and they, I can't be bothered. I'll change it.
Well, even if you've got LastPass.
Well, no, not only a small percent of people use those things, don't they? But most people just type in the password into the password box. And also most of them just leave it up to their web browser to remember the passwords.
Yeah.
Which is handy.
Yes.
Of course, it's handy. I do. I go to mine and click the thing. It says here's your password and stuff. But if you haven't got that written down or in LastPass or MSecure or something like that, and then your web browser, the cache goes, or you need to format your computer or whatever.
You're stuffed.
The amount of people that will be like, I have to reset my password, and then I'll go back and put the same one in again that I've used since I was 12. Then it says you can't use the same one you've used since you were 12, and then you just add an exclamation mark at the end, or something like that. Do you still
use Kevin Loves Gemma for everything?
Yeah. I changed it recently. Yeah.
Okay. Right. What was the question anyway?
I can't remember. What was it?
Well, I think we just went to Facebook. No, we went to Facebook. I don't think we actually pulled one from Facebook. So
yes, that was right.
One more before your chat with. I think we might have time for two, but before your chat with Peter.
All right. Well, this is quite a long one, so maybe it is only time for one. Emily Renier. Morning, peeps. Another question for Kev Neil. All one word. There we go. We've become a
brand.
A thing. Kev Neil. How do you communicate to your target market that photography should be considered as a luxury service, such as a personal chef fine dining and not a Friday night let's have a pizza equivalent? Is it purely down to branding, or is there a way that we can communicate that more literally on websites and Instagram? It does go on quite a while, so I'll summarize a little bit. And Emily says, this is not for weddings, because she's happy with her price point for weddings and a market, but family stuff is where she's trying to move a lot of her business to, but actually she's having a real problem in trying to educate people that it's a luxury service.
It is difficult I think it's far more difficult with portraiture than weddings to market that as a luxury service, when I think there's a lot more, it seems to me there's a lot more people out there that are throwing 50 quid vouchers out, and which makes the luxury thing harder to, I mean, there's some photographers, I'm looking at some of the metropolitan photographers in particular, that have managed to do it. I think of the Canon ambassador, Helen Bartlett, yes. She's managed to do it very well. Mm-hmm. But it's a tricky one, that, isn't it? Because even if you've got your emotional filter that you've got, Kev, even if you've got your emotional filter that you've attached that to your website, I think, is it harder for people to fall in love with family pictures than wedding pictures in an emotional way?
Well, I think you're right, and Helen is a really good example, because
she is.
I don't think I'm wrong when I say that Helen's been doing documentary family photography for quite a while.
Oh yeah.
So she was probably around before the voucher and all those kind of Groupon type things came along, which probably, and I'm really only guessing here, so I might be totally off the mark, probably means she's got a pretty solid client base, referral market. I know she does a lot of repeating work for certain clients and stuff, which is great. So I think you're right about the things like Groupon and stuff have really hit that kind of marketplace. Although that, that's also there for weddings. You've gone to Groupon, you'll see wedding photography on Groupon.
Yeah, that's true.
Again, this isn't really specifically aimed at Emily at all, not at all, in fact. But I do think that the way that you come across on your website and Instagram is really, really super important if you're aiming for higher end clients. You've said before, don't the word awesome and all that kind of stuff, and sometimes you look at websites and they're almost caricatures. It's rather than an aspiring brand, an aspiring thing that I really, really want this. I'm going to save up my family, for my family shoot. It can sometimes come across, the message can sometimes come across as a little bit slapdash. So that's really important, and that also goes through with Instagram. And I mean, I don't really do stories on Instagram and stuff like that, but some of the stories I see on there are not very on brand. That's probably the best way to put it.
Right, yeah.
I think that if you look at something like I don't know, Tiffany's, right? The jewelry place. You know, and you look at their brand, their stories, their everything. Of course, they do all these things, but it's all very, very much on brand. It's all very much about aspiration. No, that doesn't mean that everybody has to do that and everybody has to aim for that kind of marketplace. You know, it doesn't at all. But if you are, then I think you've got to go in, you know, you've got to go right in up to your, you've got to go all the way up to the top of your legs.
Is that an official branding statement? I'm in all the way up to the top of my legs.
Oh, I'll say it. You've got to go into your branding.
I've reintroduced the bleeping machine. It didn't last long. It had to come back. One of the interesting things about so if you're looking for, is it an aspirational market or a posh market? Should we just call it posh market for a second? Now I know that Emily works a lot. Well, her work is a documentary stance, isn't it? That's what she enjoys doing. That's what she loves. That's what she presents. So in terms of brand, that's spot on, isn't it? But let's just flip this on its head for a moment and muse over whether the branding feel for the high-end market in this genre is possibly different to what you're currently shooting. Because if you think about this, I mean, there have been certain trends in the portrait market. And I'm removing documentary for a moment just to illustrate my thoughts here, Kev. But if I were to go into a high-spending, certain type of aspirational or let's call them well-heeled client, and I were to look at the pictures on their grand piano in the large, well-appointed living room, I bet I wouldn't find high-key, high-street studio hugs and giggles. I'd be more likely to find beautiful black and white, more formal portraits, perhaps shot, I don't know, environmentally, by the water feature in the rear grounds, yes, but nevertheless more formal in nature. And so it's just a thought, but do you perhaps miss a trick by not having at least an element of it, or that?
Yeah. I mean, you're always going to get people who have different tastes and everything. But regardless, I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're aiming for documentary or whether you're aiming for portraiture or whatever. And it's not even about affluence, is it? It's just about making sure that your services are justify their cost, or your branding justifies the cost.
Kind of come away from Emily's question in some respects, so I apologise for that. Yeah, but you're
yeah. I mean, I think it's all related, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think that's it. You know, the utopia, and which is pretty rare, but the utopia is that you have a reasonably high price on your website, and somebody comes along and just goes, yeah, I really like those pictures. And I'm gonna pay for that service, but they're unlikely to do that if they're not totally brought into the brand as well somehow. And of course, it's not going to be 100%, but you don't want to be the social media speak, the way that we all operate online, things. Talking about the Facebook downing yesterday, I went on Twitter. I actually go on Twitter quite a lot. I quite like Twitter.
Well, Facebook wasn't down yesterday, Kev, as well, was it? I didn't notice that.
Twitter wasn't down. No, Twitter was great. So Twitter actually put a tweet up.
Oh, right. Okay.
Twitter themselves, and the tweet said, "Welcome to Twitter, literally the whole world," which was really funny.
Yeah.
And then Instagram replied to that, which is quite funny as well, obviously, because Instagram was down. Anyway, but so what you do get on Twitter is a peek into the personalities of people that I think sometimes you don't see on things like Instagram. Yes. You do on Facebook, but on Instagram.
You learn
you see a lot of political opinion,
politics,
you see a lot of sports opinions, and personality is important. But you don't want to be, you don't want to be Gerald Ratner. I always say that in my workshops. Don't be the new Gerald Ratner.
Yeah, well, we'll put a link up to the Gerald Ratner story for context for those that don't live in the UK.
But that's the kind of thing you've got a slip of the tongue on Twitter. And where you go, and also with this thing about kind of higher worth clients, they're not going to be on Facebook. Those people, not very often.
No.
Many of them won't be on Instagram, but a lot of them will be on Twitter. Because that's the kind of business to business news sharing. That kind of thing. So, just be a little careful.
Well, that's why I think, that's when you use your platform as well, because you think, right, I need a bit more business in December and January. So you go on and if for example, you're a member of a particular you're represented as a supplier by a particular venue that have good Facebook presence, that's the time to go on and offer some fantastic offers using Facebook, because you're not going to be doing damage to your brand by putting it on your website or Twitter or something like that. You're putting it on one particular place which is known for being reasonably good for that kind of marketing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, everything has its place.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, don't be going on Twitter and abusing DPD or DHL. Oi, DHL, your service is rubbish. I've been waiting for something for 3 weeks and it ain't turned up.
Yeah,
that's probably the kind of thing you should be doing in direct message, or you can privately send tweets to DHL.
Yeah, but other grievances with other companies are well documented, of course, on that platform, just for balance. But I think what we're saying here is don't air your dirty laundry, or whatever the expression is. But it's an easy thing to do, Kev. I've done it myself. Right. Let's rescue ourselves. Peter Dench, Part 2. This week, what is and isn't there for the shooting photographically on the streets? But we start with the British photojournalist talking to our Kev here about his memories of a particular feature where he diarised his life for all to read. At times, humorously I might add, airing his laundry.
I do sometimes. I all of those issues of Professional Photography magazine, a professional photographer magazine that I wrote for. I kept every one of them that I was published in, and I do sometimes flick through, and I always fall on the Dench diaries, and I do read through them. And you're right, actually, what you said at the beginning. It was like a window into your world, and it wasn't always. Sometimes it was pretty close to the bone, wasn't it? Some of the stuff you were talking about. So it was good. It was good between the lines storytelling.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, why we should be honest, shouldn't we? I mean, if students, if I'm giving a talk and people ask, what do you earn? What did you get for that? Why? Yeah. Why not tell the truth?
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100% agree with you. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors in the industry, and it's nice to be honest and truthful. So one of the other questions that we get asked a lot, or I get asked this a lot, because I do a lot of street photography, but it's just personal street photography. And the question that comes up pretty much all the time is, well, are you allowed to take pictures of strangers doing strange things in a strange place and use those pictures? And of course, so you know where I'm going with that. So your book, some of your books are, I think they're brilliant, absolutely, especially things like Alcohol in England and The British Abroad and everything. Is there a rule on that? Is there, do you have to ask their permission? Is it just a case of turning up with your press pass and making a wonderful story, which I think are amazing? Is there any comeback? Do you ever get any issues when you're shooting? What's the gig there?
that's a whole other Fuji cast, isn't it? Yeah. There's a lot to process there. I mean, I hope my work doesn't come across as sneering.
Definitely not.
Because the people in Alcohol in England and The British Abroad, they're quite familiar to me, largely. These are kind of characters I grew up with, scenes that I saw, places I went, holidays I went on. So that was my kind of how I was shaped to see the world. So, I go there with familiarity, I think. I try not to ask permission. I mean, obviously, if you're going into a venue, so the two ways I approach it is, I'll try and get access to a club or a bar beforehand, because that just takes the pressure off and it just makes sense. So if you've got the permission of the property owner to be there as an accredited member of the press, that's usually one way round what I need to do. And it's a protective cloak. If you've already got access, that's 80% of the grief. So once you're in, and on the streets, we've met, hopefully I'm not confrontational.
No, definitely.
Sometimes I wear a cardigan. That usually helps. I've got no tattoos. I don't wear football colours. I don't wear religious insignia, so I'm not threatening or imposing who I am on the people I'm photographing. So I tend to blend quite quickly. I tend to chat, get accepted into a situation and just start making pictures. Sometimes it takes an hour. other times it'll be immediate. So I've never been sued. People have tried. People have tried to report me to the Press Complaints Commission, but as long as the work that I'm doing is used editorially, as soon as I want to use one of my pictures as a advert for Daz or Peroni or other beverages and washing powders are available, then I'd need to get model releases, which is a discipline I don't have. It's very difficult, as if you're shooting in a documentary style or street photography style, to suddenly stop, interrupt the scene and ask for someone's signature. So there's I still feel I try to respect who I'm photographing, so I photograph quite close. I want to be able to respond to them if they talk to me. I want to be able to sort of smell them, hear them, observe them, and I think you can be more respectful if you're close rather than with a zoom lens sort of 20 meters away.
Yeah, and actually your work definitely doesn't give that idea of paparazzi on the sidelines kind of shooting from a distance. You do get a sense of being there, being another person of that scene, whatever's happening in front of you. You're just another set of eyes there, effectively. That really definitely comes across in the pictures, I think.
Thank you. I used to call the zoom lens the aging snapper's walking stick. But now I am an aging snapper. So I do use, a 28 to 200 quite a lot, and just so I don't have to walk as far. But
so on that point, you use Olympus kit at the minute, right?
I do, yes. Yeah.
So is that has that migration from film, probably via DSLRs, to mirrorless, smaller cameras? Has that helped you a lot on the journey, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was perhaps like a proper fool when I started out. I would only use, first 10 years I shot exclusively on medium format Mamiya's, and I would only use the equivalent of a 35mm lens because I thought that was how proper photojournalists operated. And then I guess in 2007, when the budgets disappeared and digital was a necessity, there were two choices in my mind. It was Nikon or Canon, and the Canon seemed to have a video that people preferred, video function. So I went that route, and then I just got tired of wielding that big sort of piece of kit at people, and they tended to sort of respond less and less favorably when I did. So I was kind of looking to lighten the load, and Olympus kind of stepped in around 2016 and, offered me their system, which I just found aesthetically more pleasing. I wanted to point it at people, and they didn't seem to mind it being pointed at them. So, I think I'd still wear it around my neck even if it didn't have the battery in.
Yeah, and I feel like with things like Fujifilm, Olympus, and to a certain extent even the Sony stuff, where people who have no idea about photography who are being photographed look at the brand names and see a small camera and think, oh yeah, my mum and dad used to have one of them, and I think that helps a little bit. It's not like Canon and Nikon were the realms of the professionals, if you like, the big boys, as you were kind of growing up. And yet people can recognize an Olympus and recognize a Fujifilm and think, oh, yeah. Isn't that cute? He's using one of them kind of thing. And then you can just get on with it.
Yeah. As long as it captures what I see as swiftly and fuss-free as possible, that's what I need to get the job done.
You mentioned then about the zooms and everything, and I know that I know I've got lots of friends who use Olympus, and one of the things that they say is that even the zoom lenses are small enough to really get on with and enjoy using. So do you mostly use zooms now for that, without going too much into the technicalities of everything? Is that a better way for you to shoot, do you think?
I guess so. Yeah. So I'm just trying to think. I should have my camera bag within reach, shouldn't I? But I mentioned the one that I kind of go to, and then I've also got a spare body with maybe an 80mm equivalent on. But I still kind of keep it around the 35mm, 50mm equivalent mark if if I can, all
Yeah.
that training doesn't go away. But if I can't physically walk to where I want to photograph, then it's handy option to have, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you have if somebody said to you, what's your favorite body of work that you've produced? Is it? Now, I remember speaking to Martin Parr, and I said to him, "Have you got a favorite picture?" And he said to me that's like asking an author what their favorite page of a novel is. So now I phrase that question as, what's your favorite body of work, rather than what's your favorite picture?
Yeah, that's a brave question to ask Martin. I'm surprised he didn't march you out of the virtual place or where you were. I mean, I've actually just recently written a column about this. After "Are you related to Dame Judy?" That's probably the question I get asked the most.
And are you?
I'm not that I know of. I'm hoping one day that we'll find a connection. But until then, what's my favourite body? I mean, what makes your favourite? Is it the money you earn, the pages you get, the awards you win, the friends you meet along the way, the meals you have, the fluffiness of the hotel pillows? All of these feed into what I consider, my favourite body of work. And perhaps surprisingly, it's probably a set called Football's Hidden Stories, which is on the website, which was 26 stories, I think, across 22 different countries, documenting the impact football has at grassroots level, across the globe. So we were looking at South Africa, Colombia, Liberia, where football was helping amputees rebuild their lives. We were looking at how football educated people in Iraq, about sort of mine clearance. So there's a little stories, that made a bigger piece of work. So, as well as what I think are a good set of images, it was just the experience, and the friends I made, and the memories created from that piece of work will resonate with me, until my demise, Kevin.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned your website, so we will obviously direct people to the website, but it is it's a rabbit hole of stories and pictures, and there's even the videos the presentation videos you made for like Channel 4 on the Brexit stuff and everything. Is a wonderful place. I've spent many hours just wandering around that website. So here's a question for you then. If you, and I always ask this to people, if you could pick one person to spend one day shooting with, alive or dead, who might that be?
Oh, well, I always admire the photographers who do what I don't. So here I'm thinking of Brent Sturton, Marcus Bleasdale, and probably my go-to colleague, friend, companion on any shoot would be Tom Stoddard. So he's alive. We'll go with a live one.
Good choice.
Just because when I joined an agency in 2000, he kind of was kind enough to reach out to me with advice, and I'm very fond of Tom, and the work he produces is certainly something I can never do. So I still learn from his archive, and from his what he shoots now. So it's just and plus he's good company.
Yeah.
If you asked him the same question, he certainly wouldn't say me. So it's definitely a one way situation.
Well, I think we did have Tom on the show, and I think Neil interviewed him, so I'm not sure whether he would have asked that question. But yeah, I do remember one of the quotes Tom said was that you can always tell a good photojournalist by if they've got muddy knees.
Yes, yeah, I rip off Tom's quotes for my own sort of use quite regularly.
Yeah. So okay, final kind of question then, I suppose, is what is it like now? What's the hardest thing about doing what you do right now? Is it harder to get commissions? Is it harder to get books published? Is it is the hardest part actually getting up and going shooting? What's
yeah. These are a barrage of questions. Swinging. I think this is a Tom Stoddard quote. Actually, the hardest thing as a photographer is to keep swinging your legs out of bed, leaving loved ones behind, to spend money you might not have for no tangible reward. So I still feel as though I'm kind of creeping out of lockdown. I think our industry's been reset. There's certainly been a cull. I'm still feeling my way in this new world. What funding is available? Is there still sponsorship out there? What matters? All of these things sort of affect the way I work and the way I operate. So I guess the toughest thing, off the top of my head, is just still momentum. Why bother? Why? Where do you get your motivation from? Where I think the hardest thing is, I'm a jobbing photographer. I like to be paid for taking pictures, because and I like to know where they're going to go. Okay, this is going to be a Sunday Times commission, or this is for Getty, and that's kind of less and less. You have to kind of almost be halfway through a reportage or have finished it, and then try and interest people to publish. So I guess, so the motivation to keep going is one of the hardest things to do. But it's not trench warfare, is it, Kevin? It's not really a problem to decide, do I go out with my camera and take pictures or not? But I said I'll let a few weeks drift by, and I might not shoot a frame, and that doesn't necessarily concern me, because I know the enthusiasm and the motivation will come back. Well,
that's I mean, I always think of Edmund Terakopian, and whenever I see him or whenever I see a picture of him, he's always, without fail, got a camera around his neck. And sometimes I think I just don't do that anymore. I don't have a camera around my neck all the time. Maybe I should. I don't know. And then then I kind of hear you say things like, it takes a couple of weeks. Sometimes I might not shoot a frame, and everybody's different, I suppose, in that respect.
I mean, you can learn to do that a bit more, but I think you can't force it. And, I know similar photographers, if you have a meal with them, they're still ducking around and framing a picture, and they can't seem to leave it alone. But, I like to know when I'm on the clock, get off the train, the job begins, the camera comes out, the job finishes, I'll be quite happy to put it away and crack a strongbow and open a bag of mini cheddars and kick back on the train home. It's not a drive, I'm not sort of that itchy to take pictures, I guess.
Thanks to Peter Dench for his time with us over the last couple of weeks talking with the governor. So, if you want extra Mullins this week, be sure on Thursdays to launch incapablestaircase.com and listen to Kev's live country music show, 3:30 p.m. UK time. But of course you can play catch-up through the website too. It's Kev's Music Passion, and you can be a part of it at incapablestaircase.com. We'll link to it, of course, in the show notes today. Then I have my own podcast on Fridays that is photography-based, but with a real difference in that the show is, part out on the road and part studio-based. We call it a photo walk, and I take that walk with your letters and your ideas and your thoughts and your inspiration, and we make pictures together. And this week is a real special. We're on a photo adventure on the east coast of England, in Kent. Actually, for part of it, we're 12 miles out to sea, visiting the Maunsell Armed Towers, which are still there. They've been there now 80 years and have seen many things, including a pirate radio station, an offshore HQ for the Screaming Lord Sutch, one of our, we could call him more colourful politicians. In the war, though, they were an altogether more sinister collection of iron and steel gun emplacements, now eerily silent, save the waves, the fog, the very occasional lost gull that's wandered too far from the coast, and, us. We'll be talking about the word story too, and asking if every picture really is a story. We learn about the most famous darkroom possibly in the world, which is amazingly owned by one of our listeners. We talk ultra wide angle, we talk 365s, and we hear from a special guest, Phil Melia, a professional photographer from Manchester who always seems to have an eye for a project.
At the end of it, I thought, this is a complete stranger I've got some really nice portraits of. So I thought, well, that could be a project in itself to do in a short space of time, which was 7 days, 7 strangers, 7 portraits.
7 portraits, yeah. That's Photography Daily, wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, on photographydaily.show. Right, back to your questions. These two, Kev, these are going to be VQQ. Do you know what that stands for?
Very quick questions.
Yeah, there we go. We were doing QQs the other day. What do we have? We had QQ. LQ was a long question.
Well, come on, man. Otherwise, there won't be VQQs.
That's true. Just curious, James Thorpe says, if either of you have ever used one of these lenses on a paying gig. Lensbaby. Lensbaby did, there were 35mm, 24-70 and all those sort of things. The 5 must-have lenses. So 35, yes. So we're talking in traditional film 35mm language for a second. 35, so 23 would definitely be a must-have for you, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
24-70?
For filming.
For filming you do, but not... No, yeah, okay. 24-70. What else did they have down here? 85mm?
Yep.
So 56. Sol 45?
Sol 45?
That sounds like a beer.
Sol?
Yeah? SOL.
What does that mean?
I don't know. My go-to wedding kit inclusions are 35, 24-70, 85, Sol 45, and the Omni filters.
Sol?
SOL.
SOL?
Yeah.
45.
Sol 45. But sometimes the Velvet...
it's a Lensbaby.
Right, okay. Sometimes the Velvet 56 joins the ride. Now, neither of us have used Lensbaby, have we?
No.
Is there a reason for that?
No, not really. I just never really thought about it.
No.
No, never use it. That's those things that you can twist and tilt and you can get funky effects, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Like creative bokeh and all that kind of stuff. No, I've never used them, but I know that they're very popular, so people must be using them.
Well, that's why I bought my tweed trousers, so that I can use one. Right, so thank you, James. No, we're not really big users of them, but thanks for your question. And then Stefan Carding. Hello from British Columbia. I believe I have a question that you've not answered on the show before. Ooh. Do your best. Is there a piece of kit that is well loved that you can't seem to get along with? Excluding with. Now, it's not that you can't seem to get along without. Is there a piece of kit that is well loved that you can't seem to get along with? Personally,
that's an interesting question.
Yeah, it's actually not so much a QQ anymore now because this has entered a new dimension to it. Personally, says Stefan, I can't get along with the X100 series. I tried one out when I went to switch from Sony for lighter gear. I loved everything the camera had to offer except the focal length. I much prefer a tighter focal length.
I got loads of stuff that I don't really get on with.
Like what?
Well, there's the bin man who comes and makes a noise on a Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
Okay, so that question...
Slightly different dynamic to it now, isn't there?
Yeah, so I don't have anything in my camera bag that I take that I don't really get on with.
Yeah.
Because originally I thought this question, as I glanced through it, was what's the thing that you need the most in your camera bag?
Straight away, I was about to say Lumimuse.
Yeah, and I was thinking, well, I literally only have in my camera bag the cameras I need, a couple of lenses, and my Lumimuse. I don't have anything else really, apart from maybe a couple of Mars bars and a bit of water or stuff. So yeah, I mean, I do have stuff in the studio that I've bought that's in my cupboard that I probably would never. I mean, I've got hundreds of pounds worth of flash guns and things like that I just know that I just don't use. Won't get on with it.
Yeah, I'm going to mention the flashes, that being my nemesis if we're talking about that piece of kit in the bag that you just can't seem to get along with, but you use. I mean, I do use flash. I use it for the cake. I use it to balance the light a bit better during portraits, particularly in the summer when that sun goes really low and causes all sorts of issues. But the amount of times I've wanted to throw it in the hedge.
I don't take anything to a wedding. I don't take anything to a wedding that I don't get on with.
No.
Nothing.
Does that include second shooters?
I enjoyed it. I had Mr. Souls was talking of Soul. It was a second shot for me a couple of weeks ago. I really enjoyed that, actually. It was nice to have somebody
Would
there.
You have more second shooters?
I've got a couple of bookings next year where they've paid for second shooters. So, I will be dipping in. I'll be asking usual suspects, James probably first and then thereafter.
Oh, has James become your go-to?
No, I mean, I had Alex as well. We both used Alex, didn't we? And whoever's free, really. I mean, obviously, I'm a fan of using, as you are, professional wedding photographers as second shooters, and often they're they're booked. So with their own gigs. So it has to be, I think you need a little collection, but it's rare. I mean, I think I've got 2 next year where they've paid for second shooters. I had 1 this year. That's basically all I've ever had in terms of people who have asked for them in 13 years.
So why is that trend changing then, do you think?
I think the reason why it's coming up more often now is because a lot of people actually offer 2 shooters as standard, and you see quite a few places, quite a few websites where they say, it's important that you have 2 photographers, 1 photographer can't do the job, etc. Yeah. And that's fine because that's their marketing message, and that's absolutely fine. And so I think that's why I've had a few more. And also I do now have it on my booking form as a little checkbox if they want a second shooter and the price of it. So, there is an option for them, whereas I never had that before. So maybe people are just thinking, oh, okay, I'll tick that box. Yeah. Isn't it? Yeah. Some people, especially husband-wife teams and everything like that. I mean, I think that's the husband-wife thing is, if you can both take good pictures and it gives you an opportunity to spend Saturdays together, well, I think that's a wonderful thing.
Or double your money and go and work in different places.
Well, maybe.
Do half as many bookings and
spending the time together, I think is a nice thing, working together.
Yeah. And then go and watch Accrington Stanley on the weekends off instead. Talking of horses, since you mentioned it, how's yours?
Accrington Stanley? Who are they? Let's remember that advert.
Oh, yeah. Accrington Stanley. That's the one, wasn't it? Yeah. Who are they?
Yeah. The horse is great, actually. I went up, I had to go and check on them by myself the other day. All by myself. There's 4 horses up there now. It seems every time I go up there, there's another one.
What?
I had to go up and make sure that they were behaving themselves because everybody else was sick, at home sick.
Because I know the family haven't been too well, which is, I think they're on the road to recovery, aren't they now? But so all the families have been pulling that excuse, have they? Send Kev, tell him we've got a bit of a lurgy. He'll do all the horses tonight.
The other 2 ladies that are involved, the other 2 women that own some of the horses up there, one of them was away. The other one is also unwell, was unwell. Right. So it was like, Kev, can you go and just make sure there's water and make sure they haven't escaped and all that. So I went up, I sat in my car, peered out the window, looked all right, and then I came home.
No, Kev, that's not mucking out the horses.
Oh no, I'm not doing that stuff.
Oh, right, okay.
I didn't sign up for poo picking.
Right, let's look at Book of the Week then. What do we have? So, this one you read it, as you said.
You do read it, yeah. However, I haven't read it yet, so this is more of an introduction. And the reason, as I said at the beginning of the show, the reason why I have this, I didn't even know this existed, but I was chatting to Anna the other day on Zoom, as you do these days, and she had it by her side, and I said, "Oh, what's that?" And she pulled it out, and it had all these like little yellow stickers and notes and everything. And I was like, "Now that is a proper way to read a book.
Yes.
Not on a Kindle, not on a tablet, but physically. And it's a lovely, lovely physical book. So it's the memoir of Sally Mann. Obviously, Sally Mann still around. She's 70 years old now. American, very, very famous American photographer, primarily known for her kind of large format black and white type stuff, very iconic pictures. So the blurb of the book says, one of the best books of the year, the New York Times, Washington Post, San Francisco Chronicle, Vogue, NPR Publishers Week book page. We're reviewing it, and it says, a revealing and beautifully written memoir and family history from acclaimed photographer Sally Mann. In this groundbreaking book, a unique interplay of narrative and image, Mann's preoccupation with family, race, mortality, and the storied landscape of the American South are revealed as almost genetically predetermined, written into her DNA by the family history that precedes her. Sorting through boxes of family papers and yellowed photographs, she finds more than she bargained for. Deceit and scandal, alcohol, domestic abuse, car crashes, bogeymen, clandestine affairs.
Oh, blimey.
Clandestine affairs. Yeah. Dearly loved and disputed family land, racial complications, vast sums of money made and lost, the return of the prodigal son, and maybe even bloody murder. In lyrical prose and startling, revealing photographs, she crafts a totally original form of personal history that has the page-turning drama of a great novel, but is firmly rooted in the fertile soil of her own life.
Feral.
It's like Midsummer Murders with a camera. Brilliant. I love it. So I can't really review it because I haven't read it yet. I've read the first couple of paragraphs, first couple of pages, I should say.
Yeah.
But just glancing through it, it's a proper it's a big book, proper book, paperback book.
Yeah.
But there's, this isn't about Sally Mann's photography. The photos are, in my mind, not particularly well printed. It's on kind of as you would normally get in a kind of novel. The paper isn't, photographic paper. But the pictures are interspersed, mostly text. Some of the pictures are quite small, but it really is this idea of, there's notes and sketches and all that kind of stuff that she's done as well, or family members of hers have done, that she's been researching this. And I think, so basically I'm paraphrasing Anna here, really, who says that, it's a real... She does give an insight into the way that her thought process is when she's taking pictures and all of that kind of stuff. But really, it's a story of this incredible family, and I just can't wait to get into it. There's a bit I'm kind of glancing through a section now, and it's a little bit about the styling of pictures, and the reason some of it is the reason why many of her pictures are kind of what they call it, tinotyped, split tone, we might call it these days, slightly warmed up, and so here I'm just pulling over to page 197, and this is a Christmas card, or maybe not a Christmas card, but in America they have the whole holiday season, don't they? So it could be from Thanksgiving onwards. And it says, "Greetings of the season," and then the handwritten note says, "These were too tall for my shelves. Happy holidays and much love." So obviously you need to read that part around it to find out what was too tall for the shelves. And there's snapshots like people having birthday cakes, all that kind of stuff. And actually one thing that it kind of does immediately bring to mind is that, you see these super successful photographers, and we often only ever get to see their acclaimed work. But actually in here, there's a whole load of snapshots and Polaroids and all sorts from her general life.
I love to see stuff like that, because then you think, oh, right, okay, so you are normal.
Yeah, I mean, I think... like I said, I cannot say that it's a wonderful book because I haven't read it yet, but it looks amazing.
Did the work of Sally Mann inspire you with because when I look at the attention to detail and the wonderful time and pictures she's made of her family and the way she's documented their lives, I would imagine there's a lot of photographers. I can think of a couple straight away, but I'll include yourself in this, that probably were inspired to make their black and their really sort of deep, gorgeous, contrasty black and whites of their family in the same sort of method.
Absolutely. I mean, I've always loved Sally Mann work. Always, I've got lots of her books, and of course, there's a lot more. Her family photography is important work, but her documenting of predominantly the American South and the history of it is probably more important, I suppose, rather than the kind of family stuff. But wonderful photographer. I'm really looking forward to reading that book.
And you're going to fill it with Post-it notes.
I'm going to write all over it. Yep. Yeah, I'm going to write all over it. I'm going to circle things, underline things, stick pictures in it. Yeah. That's the kind of thing I'm going to do with it.
I've just found another book. While you were mentioning that, I mentioned the Cartier-Bresson one. I can't find that one, but it's there somewhere. But the David Hearn, Bill J book on being a photographer is full of notes from a photographer that had it before. Well,
we reviewed that one during lockdown, I think.
Yeah, quite a while ago. But it's made even more interesting by the fact that this person has underlined quite a few parts of it. And for me, that you're almost looking into another photographer's mind, looking into this book, which I find fascinating.
Yeah,
good. So it's available.
Hold Still, Sally Mann. Yeah, published in 2015. So she would have been, I don't know, early 60s at that point.
Yep.
It's available from all good booksellers.
Right, back to questions. Have we got time for... Yes, we have. Oh, we've got more than enough time, Kev. It's nowhere near last orders, please. So do you want to go with Facebook first? I've kind of got one that's sort of Facebook kind of... I sort of sent it to myself via email from... should we do this one? Llewellyn Annandale.
Okay, and then we'll do one from Facebook because I've got a good one.
All right. So realistically, this was a post that he left, and he tagged us in this post, but it wasn't really within the questions that you usually read out. So realistically, how old is too old to shoot weddings? Now, I know we talk a lot about weddings because we are wedding photographers, but of course you can apply this to many other genres as well. I'm 45. I think I have a number of years ahead of me, but I'm interested to hear from other photographers. I know Kevin and Neil are way younger than me. I don't think so. Kev maybe, not me. How
I'm
old
not,
is?
by the way.
Oh, you're not. Oh, right. Okay. I thought you were still 38, Kev.
No, I'm 48 now.
Are you?
Yeah.
How did you start catching up? Are you romping towards me?
I'm racing. Yeah, I'm taking for every one day you have, I have two.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Or the other way around.
No, I think. Oh, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Hang on.
Yeah.
I
Well,
did
you're
English in school, not maths.
You're romping. So 45. I mean, clearly he doesn't feel it's too old at the moment. I've noticed actually things have changed I've noticed it more in the last 3 or 4 years, Kev. That now I really do feel in fact. It's sort of underlined by my comment a while ago on this podcast where I said I felt I had to step in and say something nice about the bride because Dad hadn't. I'm now beginning to feel like the dad.
We're definitely the age of the dads now.
Yeah.
Not
for all clients, because I think actually your client demo does change with you to an extent as well, doesn't it? As you mature, I think you start to naturally gravitate towards people that are your age group as well. So I've found that I would imagine 50 to 60% of my clients now are not slipper thing, age.
I think listen, Ryan Giggs was still knocking in footballs in the Premiership when he was 43 or 42. So, age is just a number. You go until one of two things happens. One, you get bored. Two, you've paid off your mortgage.
And you might not even want to stop
and then stop.
No, you might not want to.
Well, yeah, you may not. If you don't, if you absolutely crack on.
Yeah, your projects might change. You might think, well, I don't have to be so commercial about it now. So I've always wanted to go and photograph windmills. That's what you do. I
think the age thing is, obviously, people, you do get groans and, achy bits and things like that. But that can all be dealt with, unless it's a, proper physical problem. Yeah, I honestly don't think any client, well, I would like to think that no client would pick a photographer just because they were younger. In fact, I think probably it would work the other way in most cases. I think they for something like that, they probably maybe thinking in their mind, well, yeah, actually, he's been around the block a bit, maybe he's a bit more of a safer pair of hands. I don't know what's going through their mind. But yeah, I generally don't think age is a thing. As long as you're capable of doing it and you're still enjoying it and the taxman's still asking you for it, then, you need to carry on. Don't worry.
I think of photographers like that photographer you like, Mel in, is he Mel
DiGiacomo?
Yeah, in New York. Now, I don't know whether he's still shooting them.
I don't think he is now.
But he wasn't he? Quite late into...
He was into his late 70s, 80s, yeah.
He was still shooting them.
Yeah,
and his work was great, and his eye was still on the ball when it came to all those. I mean, he worked strictly with a 24mm lens, didn't he? Always got in close. I think it literally was one camera, one lens kind of work, and very in your face, wasn't it? And superb with it.
Yeah.
He's won.
We'll put a link to one of the B&H interviews with Mel on the show notes this week. It's a really good watch.
And then if you look into photographers like Bailey, he's still doing it. Never stopped him.
No.
Yeah. So does it ever bug you or worry you just a insy-tinsy bit if worry you is probably more pertinent, but if you're on a Zoom call and you think, well, do I look too old or?
No, because I put the filters on that give me rabbit ears and sparkles above my hair.
Do you? And that doesn't put them off?
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't. No, I don't. I generally don't worry about that.
No.
I mean, I worry about. I don't like the thought of getting older. I don't think anybody does, but I don't like that. Yes, of course, I wish I was. No, I don't wish I was younger, but I wish perhaps I'd done things when I was younger. Anyway, this is a very different conversation.
Yeah. What age do you wish you were then, Kev?
I'm happy with my age. I have to say, but I wish I was perhaps there's things that I did between the ages of 18 and an age a bit later on that I wish that I'd done differently, perhaps.
Don't be rude.
Yeah, I think he is being. Yeah, you get.
No, it's not about that. It's about just general well-being.
Okay.
Anyway,
all right. Fair dues.
Moving on.
What was your really interesting question to rescue us?
Garrett Hayes says, great work getting to the 200th episode. Well done. My question is related to photography, not necessarily Fujifilm related. Last week in our local camera club, I entered a picture of a building which had been decorated by an artist depicting a pub image.
Right.
I took a picture of the image and with a lot of care, changed it into black and white, edited, removed a few unnecessary objects and entered the image. Yeah. To my surprise, the competition judge from another club rejected my image as he said this was just a copy of some other person's work. And he did the same with an image by another photographer of a wall in Belfast. But I noticed that he did not dismiss images of public buildings and well-known monuments, and he did not reject these images, although I am pretty certain that the photographer had not built those buildings or monuments themselves. Is this a fair or reasonable observation? Should I just consider that it was his bias? Your views are always worth listening to.
Yeah, bias.
He did put a picture of the shot, which we will include, or we will link to the Facebook
So the concern was
post,
that it was emulating what somebody else had done.
Okay, so I'll explain the picture. So the picture is of a wall with a painting. So there's a brilliant painting on a wall.
Right.
It's just a wall with a painting of a pub, and you've got these 4 or 5 characters having a beer downstairs, and then you have this woman peering out of the window up the top, and a cat walking across the window ledge.
Oh, this sounds like timing.
It's all a painting, right? It's all a painting.
Sorry,
however, Garrett has taken a photograph of the painting.
Sorry. Yes.
So his point is that was disqualified because it was just a photograph, just in inverted quotes or air quotes, as our American friends might say, of somebody else's work. Yeah. However, is not a photograph of a famous monument, for example, just a
somebody
of someone else's work as well.
That's the point. Well, this is complete subjectivity, isn't it, on the part of the judge, Kev? I mean, it sounds to me like they have immovable, very prescriptive ideas that probably don't bend at all. They're kind of entrenched by the sound of it in a belief that, what makes a picture? Yeah. This is, Kev, the kind of person I call a box placer. They placed all their beliefs in a box, and woe betide if you challenge their very blinkered beliefs.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different commentaries on this, I think, in that, I can see the point of view that it's a photograph of somebody else's work. However, the black and white conversion, the composition, the editing, all of that is not that original artist's work. And, you all often see, he's right, Garrett's right about, the fact that the judge, I say guy, it might have been a lady, did not disqualify other pictures that were essentially photographs of other work as well. That's not quite right in my mind. I think you either disqualify all of it or you don't disqualify none of it.
But then where do you stop? You can't take a picture of that because that's somebody built that. You can't take a picture of that. That's a car that somebody made. That's somebody else's artwork.
It depends on if there's anything else happening in that frame, doesn't it? Yeah. You can take a picture of a car and make it, it can be about the lighting, it can be about the, the different angle, whatever.
But this was about the
lighting. Taking a picture of a painting, effectively. Yeah. That's the complication.
Garrett, were you being a bit of a tinker with this? Were you thinking, I'll get them?
I don't know. I mean, it really is a tough one. I can see both sides of the story, I have to say.
Yeah.
I think if he or she is going to disqualify that, then it should probably disqualify the other stuff as well. But the picture that Garrett put up, I can tell that he's put effort into the, because this would have been a color painting. He's put effort into the monochrome editing. Yeah. He's thought about the composition of the tree that he's taken the picture from behind. All of that kind of stuff makes it his own work in my mind. So I think that the judge has been a little bit single-minded, narrow-minded, perhaps, in not looking at the greater picture. If that none of that made any sense. Basically, I'm on your side, Garrett.
Yeah. Don't enter. I think you're going to have to think about how open-minded judges are. Isn't it terrible that you have to think about what the judge may think instead of making a picture because you think it's good? I think there's always a danger with competitions, though, and you see this with judging all the time, don't you, Kev? You really do. And so many really powerful, potent images in terms of news would never... things that win major news awards, which are not perfect pictures in any way, would never win a local camera club award, would they?
No. And looking at Garrett's picture in more detail, I've just blown it up on my screen, then, it's definitely not just a picture. If that was the only thing in the scene, then slightly different. But it's not. There's trees, there's shadows, there's shapes, that are not part of the painting, but are part of the photograph. So, yeah, I'm not saying necessarily that it would have deserves to be the winning picture, but I've not seen any of the others, but it doesn't deserve to be disqualified in my mind.
No. Just don't disqualify stuff. Just don't make it the winner. These grand statements sometimes made by judges. Just don't make it the winner. So, well, that's nice. Yeah, well done. But vote for something else. Moving on. Leon Lewis. Hello, Kev. Hello, Neil. Now, this is a little bit wedding-centric as well, but sometimes these shows, I feel like we have to do a disclaimer on this, Kev, but he's at a crossroads in his life, this chap, and he sent this mail sort of 3/4 the way through September. So he's thinking, what do I do? So we have to answer this question now. We should have done it last week. Hi, Kev. Hi, Neil. This is a bit of an advice question. I found out at 1 o'clock on Monday 20th, so it is a couple of weeks ago, that I was being made redundant from my current job of 21 years. Blimey, that's a long time to have a job, isn't it, Kev? And then find out, you're being made redundant. I will be leaving at the end of the month from my job. It's in a concrete factory, or not factory, concrete business. Not a huge problem, as I have several contacts, and maybe I could walk into a similar job with another company. The question is, though, I could look at going into wedding photography and set myself up with some of my redundancy money. Now, I know that you will say it's up to me what to do, but I'm looking at what would be the best process to achieve this and what order. Website, self-employed, extra training, become a second shooter, yada, yada, yada. I shot my first wedding for a friend and I really enjoyed it. I'm at a crossroads in my life at 48. Oh, it goes back to that question of how old is too old? 48 certainly isn't. And have a great opportunity to do something I love as a job, but I tell you what, it scares the hell out of me. Any advice gratefully received. That's from Leon Lewis, who was the Fujicast 365 joint winner.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a chicken and egg thing, isn't it? You can't have a website without having any pictures.
No.
How do you get the pictures if you don't have a website to get the clients? And so the answer generally is second shooting. So that's where you want to be aiming for. I think initially, try and get some shots. Doesn't have to be second shooting. Could be, reaching out to friends and families, don't be afraid to do things for free right at the very beginning.
Yeah.
But what I will say is whatever you do, don't do stuff for free or cheap for people you do not know. So don't go onto Facebook, for example, and say, I'm a new photographer. I want to get into weddings. I'm willing to do a couple for free. That will just end up in pain. Friends of friends, people that you actually know is as far as I would encourage you to stretch that offer. Do that. Yeah, get yourself some shots, get the website up, social media, and get on the
Is it worth
with the rest of us?
Is it worth that he's talking about the fact that he could maybe get a similar job for a little while? Do that alongside it to try and run both in your life for a little while.
Yeah, well, of course, why not? A lot of people do that, don't they? A lot of people have a day job and a
particularly this
job on the other side.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing you've got to consider with that is, given the 48 years old, perhaps there's family around, all that kind of stuff, and if you do get to the situation where the wedding photography takes off, then you absolutely need to be ready to step back from the day job, especially if it's a manual job.
Yeah.
You don't want to be lugging. I don't know. I mean, it might be a concrete marketing manager. I don't know, but whatever. 9-to-5 job and then shooting weddings on the weekend is tricky for a certain age demographic, especially if you've got family kicking around.
Yeah, I think it's the family. I think physically you can do it easy, but what do the family say? The family fully supportive. If they are, then yeah, do it. And that's it for another week. Thank you. If you can share the episode on Twitter or on Facebook, you are absolutely a star. See you in the Facebook group for any questions you have about today's show. Play Nice, of course. Our moderators, Steve and Peter, who left a question earlier, are in there. If you'd like to send a question in, there's two ways to do it. There is a thread, isn't there, Kev? How do they do it on Facebook, Kev?
Top pin thread, questions for the show thread. And, of course, Patreon. You can, if you're a Patreon member, you'll get bumped to the front. If you're lucky.
Don't start that again. And also you can send them in by email to click@fujicast.co.uk.
Or you could write us a letter in the post.
Where do they send the letter, though, Kev? What's the address?
You can send it to my studio on my website. You can send it to Neil's, probably on his website. If it's got stuff in it, send it to me. If it's just a letter, send it to Neil.
Oh, mind you, I did get those beers a while back, didn't I? I was very surprised. I thought, usually this is the sort of thing that turns up with Kev. I never get this. I thought it must be a mistake. But there we go. So thank you for joining us this week. Music from Blue Wednesday, supporting music as ever from the incredible artlist.io. Thank you to Peter Dench. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The Fujicast is an independent Loading Zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.